April 1st, 1945, Easter Sunday. 60,000 American troops land on Okinawa's beaches, bracing for hell, but they find only silence. Within days, the world's largest amphibious armada becomes prey to waves of kamikaze attacks. More than 1,900 suicide planes plunge into the fleet, leaving decks awash with fire and chaos. Operation Iceberg was meant to end the Pacific War quickly, but with over 200,000 lives lost in just 82 days, the truth was far worse than anyone imagined. How did a straightforward invasion spiral into history's bloodiest island battle? The answer begins where the silence shattered. Operation Iceberg brought together the largest invasion force the Pacific had ever seen. More than 1,300 ships formed a steel horizon off Okinawa's western coast, commanded by Vice Admiral Richmond Kelly Turner. The fleet carried nearly 183,000 American soldiers and Marines, an army larger than the population of many U.S. cities, packed into transports, landing craft, and support vessels. Destroyers, battleships, and escort carriers crowded the waters, their guns bristling for the assault. At stake was an island just 340 miles from the Japanese mainland. Okinawa was not just another dot on the map, it was the last barrier before Japan itself. American planners needed its airfields to launch B-29 bombers and prepare for the final invasion scheduled for November 1945. Every operational runway on Okinawa could bring the war to Japan's doorstep. But the island was already home to 300,000 Okinawan civilians. Families farmed the rolling hills, fished the coastal waters, and lived in villages scattered across the countryside. Now they found themselves trapped between two armies, their fate uncertain as the invasion fleet closed in. The scale of Operation Iceberg was staggering, but so was the risk. The fleet's survival was critical. Every ship afloat meant more troops, more supplies, and the chance to keep pressure on Japan. Yet in the days to come, the American Armada would face dangers no battle plan could fully anticipate. The calm off Higuchi Beach was only the beginning. April 6, 1945. The first wave of Operation Kikusui sweeps down from Kyushu, hundreds of Japanese aircraft diving toward the American fleet. Kamikaze pilots, some barely out of their teens, aim their planes straight at steel decks. Explosions rip through the morning haze. Destroyers and picket ships, stationed far from the main fleet as early warning posts, bear the brunt. There is no shelter, only the open sea and the knowledge that every radar contact could be the last. On April 16th, the destroyer USS Laffey faces an onslaught that defies belief. 22 enemy planes attack in less than 90 minutes. Bombs detonate amidships, kamikazes slam into gun mounts and the bridge. Crewmen fight fires with seawater and throw spent shell casings overboard, working until their hands bleed. Ammunition runs low, guns jam from the heat. In the chaos, a sailor later recalled, planes diving like hornets. We fought with brooms when ammo ran out. The attacks do not let up. On May 11th, two kamikazes crash into the carrier USS Bunker Hill, igniting fuel and ammunition. Fires rage for hours. 389 sailors die, one of the worst single-ship losses in the Pacific War. By the time the skies clear, more than 1,900 kamikaze sorties have battered the fleet. 36 ships lie sunk, another 368 damaged. 4,900 American sailors are dead. The men on the picket lines are exhausted, nerves stretched thin. Each day at sea becomes a test of endurance and luck as the fleet clings to the hope that the battle ashore will break the storm in the air. South of the landing beaches, the heart of Okinawa became a fortress sculpted from stone and rain. Japanese engineers spent months turning the island's limestone ridges into a labyrinth. Thousands of yards of tunnels and caves honeycombed the ground beneath Shuri. Machine gun nests, artillery chambers, and living quarters vanished into the rock, shielded from bombing and shell fire. Each position was linked by narrow passageways, some so tight that only one man could crawl through at a time. The defenders used the terrain as a weapon. Hills like Sugarloaf and Conical hid their guns on the far reverse slopes, out of sight from American artillery. Whenever U.S. troops climbed a ridge, they faced fire from angles they could not see, mortars and machine guns erupting from hidden sally ports and then vanishing back into darkness. By early May, the weather turned. Heavy monsoon rains soaked the battlefield, turning dirt roads into rivers of mud. Tanks and trucks bogged down, supply lines broke apart, and the wounded sometimes drowned in water-filled shell craters before help could reach them. Engineers' field sketches from the time show entire companies trapped by rising water, forced to abandon vehicles and drag ammunition by hand. Assaulting these defenses meant charging uphill, across open ground, under fire from weapons buried in stone. Every cave and tunnel was a potential strong point, every hill a trap. The American advance slowed to a crawl, and the cost of every yard climbed higher with each day of rain and resistance. Sugarloaf Hill rises barely 50 feet above the Okinawan plain, yet for 10 days in May, it became the center of a slaughter. Marines of the 6th Division attacked 11 times, each assault met by machine guns and mortars hidden on the far slope. The ground was so churned by shellfire that men advanced through mud up to their knees, crawling past the bodies of friends and enemies alike. After-action reports counted 2,662 Marine casualties to seize a patch of ground no bigger than a city block. One survivor remembered, "By the 11th try, you stopped thinking about tomorrow. You just kept moving." Elsewhere, on the cliffs of Maeda Escarpment, Hacksaw Ridge, an Army medic named Desmond Doss worked through the night as bullets and shells tore the air. He carried no weapon, only a stretcher and a prayer. Over 2 days, Doss lowered 75 wounded men to safety, one at a time, using a rope and his bare hands. His Medal of Honor citation would later note that he risked his life repeatedly, refusing to leave the ridge until every last man he could find was rescued. Fellow soldiers, who once called him a coward for refusing to carry a rifle, watched in awe as he moved through the chaos, whispering, "Lord, help me get one more." By the end of May, the defenders at Shuri Castle could hold no longer. After weeks of constant bombardment and close combat, American troops entered the ruins on May 29th. The fall of Shuri signaled a turning point. The Japanese command withdrew south, and the battle's final, desperate phase began. For the men who survived Sugarloaf and Hacksaw Ridge, the cost was measured not just in ground gained, but in lives spent. The average life of a rifle platoon commander on Okinawa was 3 days. The survivors pressed on, knowing the worst was still to come. At the southern tip of Okinawa, the war reached into the lives of families who had nowhere left to run. Japanese soldiers forced civilians from caves, making room for troops, and leaving women, children, and the elderly exposed to shell fire. In the chaos, orders and propaganda told people that surrender meant dishonor or torture. Grenades were handed out with a chilling message: use one on the enemy and use the other on yourself. Thousands gathered at the cliffs near Mabuni and Chibichiri, where mothers clutched children and entire families leapt into the sea. Survivors later described the terror of being told to speak only Japanese or face death. Some were killed for using their Okinawan language. In a single season, centuries of Ryukyuan culture were shattered. The Peace Museum preserves the words of one woman who said that soldiers took their cave, told them to speak Japanese or die, and that they lost their home, their language, and their family. June 18, 1945. A Japanese artillery shell strikes the command post of Lieutenant General Simon Bolivar Buckner Jr., ending the life of the highest-ranking American officer killed by enemy fire in World War II. 4 days later, in a cave on the Kion Peninsula, General Mitsuru Ushijima and his chief of staff, Isamu Cho, take their own lives rather than surrender. By then, the ground is soaked with blood. American casualties stand at 12,520 killed, nearly 39,000 wounded, and 26,000 more broken by combat fatigue. Japanese losses are staggering, over 110,000 soldiers dead, with fewer than 7,400 taken alive. Civilian deaths reach at least 100,000. These numbers land on the desks of the Joint Chiefs in Washington. Their projections for Operation Downfall, the planned invasion of Japan, climb to 500,000 American casualties. Okinawa's butcher's bill becomes a cold calculation, proof that the next battle could be even worse. Okinawa's scars remain visible, American bases still dominate the island, and memories of loss shape local identity. As tensions rise in the Pacific, the lessons of 82 days are not history. They are a warning. The human cost of war never fades. What price are we willing to pay next time?